Hey, welcome to Sacred Enzyme. It's Stacy, and today I want to talk to you about Dionysus. And Dionysus is this Greek mythological figure, and I think that we got to start, looking at this ancient Greek stuff, because this is where we're going to find a lot of stuff out. And one thing I have noticed is that since I've been trying to find out what more things mean in Greek, I've found out that it's not easy to find translations of Greek words. And it's not easy to find books in the library. I couldn't find one single book on Greek language in my library. So let me talk about Dionysus. So Dionysus is supposed to be this god that comes from Zeus and Gaia. Okay, and Gaia, most people if anybody's watching this channel, you already know who Zeus is, you already know who Gaia is. And so Gaia and Zeus have this child Dionysus. Okay, so I was looking at Dionysus, and since he is an ancient Greek mythological figure, I thought I should look in Greek, right, and take his name apart. Let's remember that adage from My Big Fat Greek Wedding where he says, give me any word and I'll tell you why the root of that word is Greek. And that is the truth. That is the truth. So I'm trying to find out what Dionysus is. And I also thought it was interesting because I've been hearing this song in my head that from my brother. And it's Easy Come, Easy Go by George Strait. And he says, something con Dios, good luck. It means go with God anyway. Vaya con Dios, con Dios. Well, anyway, I was just thinking Dios. Okay, so Dios means Zeus or God. And then Nisus. So when you're looking up Nisus, you can't really find a word that means what Nisus means, or Nisos, or Nosos. So, I start thinking, okay, wait a minute. Gnosis. That sounds an awful lot like Gnosis. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe Dionysus means God knowledge. God knowledge. Like Sophia and the Christ. God knowledge. That's what it means. Dionysus means God gnosis. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. But Dionysus has been trickled down from its beginning time into these Bacchic religious rites. These Bacchus rites where they used medicine. And we're talking like natural medicine. We're not talking about like, well, they could have been. I mean, they found cocaine in those Egyptian mummies. So they knew how to do cocaine or make cocaine, however you make it. They knew how to do it. So they knew about drugs. Drugs ain't nothing new. They've been using drugs. They even talk about drinking some kind of drink on those emerald tablets. So anyway, they were talking about these Bacchic rituals. So I've been reading about these Bacchic rituals. So I don't know if you've ever had or know anybody that's had a near-death experience. And if you've had a near-death experience, you come back changed, for real. I had a near-death experience. And when you have a near-death experience and you see things, when you've died, you come back and you're not the same because you've learned things that you didn't know before. You had some doors open in your mind. Okay? So what was happening in ancient times is that they were making compound pharmaceuticals from animals and whatnot, and they were taking them for near-death experiences, but then they had to come back. This is why they were dying and being reborn, just like it talks about in the Bible. It's like when you're getting your baptism, right? You're dying, you're being reborn, that's what that was about. You're literally being born again, but yeah, you're being resuscitated pretty much with these enzymes. So what I thought was really interesting is that Dionysus, if you take the name apart, not only do you have Dio and Gnosis, which I think means God, knowledge, is that you have Ion, I-O-N. And so that to me is very interesting because you have Ionia, which is ancient Anatolia. And then if you think about ion, you've got ions. You've got Ionia. You have to excuse me. I have all my stuff here. You have Ionia. In classical times, was in the west coast of Asia Minor, inhabited by the Hellenic people, and it was colonized by the Greeks. Okay, so you have iconic bonds, attractions between oppositely charged atoms or groups of atoms where electrons are donated and accepted. Okay, so we got iconic, right? So what's an atom? An ion is an atom or a molecule with a net electrical charge. Atoms are neutral because they have the same number of protons and electrons. Oh, we're going back to that neutrality again. We're going back to not feminine, not masculine, all in one, perfect. So there must be perfect minerals. Obviously, there's perfect plants that don't require any pollination from any other because they're male and female on the same plant. And there must be, in the past, there were perfect human beings. And these were these gods. So, an ion is neutral. It's an atom or a molecule. Okay, so what about ionic? Ionic. Relating to or denoting a classical order of architecture characterized by a column with scroll shapes on either side of the capital. Another term for Ionian. Well, that's interesting. So are we saying that Dionysus is the one who inspired the Ionic order of architecture? So could we say that the Ionic order and the 5 noble orders of architecture came from Dionysus? Did it come from Dionysus? So that would mean that Washington, D.C., White House, all these places that have these columns, the type of column is going to tell you what order it belongs to. And there are several different orders. And all the Freemasons are familiar with the explanation. You know, they know what it is. All the Freemasons. The 5 orders are Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, Composite, or Roman. Which seems pretty interesting because if you go back and look at ancient Anatolia, you've got Corinth, Ionia, you've got Tuscany, Rome, and I think it was Dorian or Doria or something, but pretty much other than composite. But, you know, you've got some other types of forms of architecture, speaking of which. You've got the cruciform. Oh, the cruciform. Oh, what's the cruciform, you say? Well, the cruciform is geometrically a cross. Okay. So it's a building that emulates a cross. So what is all this stuff really talking about here? If a cruciform is a building that resembles a common Christian cross, and then all of these Ionic columns are calibrated with Pythagorean geometry, and then the buildings are made out of all these different types of conductive materials. And then we even have star forts that are surrounded by water, and the shapes of these star forts conduct dipoles. Oh wow, this is getting deep. And then we have all these salt mines. You know what happens when you take raw salt and you get it wet? You have a big explosion. Ionic columns creating neon atoms that could be harvested through some type of conductor into lights. I wonder if the columns were actually illuminated. Be interesting. Go back in time, right? Yeah, for sure. Definitely think we should look at it. So I think that these old world buildings can be dated by just knowing a little bit about Dionysus, because Dionysus was supposed to be the god of he was the pre-god of what became these Bacchic rituals. But the interesting thing is that his staff is a fennel scepter, which is all about nature, healing. So maybe, you know, Dionysus was bringing medicine too. Maybe that's what it means with the pine cone, because you know the pine tree is a perfect plant. It's a perfect plant. So with that, I'm going to end that little bit on Dionysus, because I think that we can date a lot of this architecture that we have here from the old world back probably well in like 3,000 years maybe to ancient Anatolia or sometime around there. I think that when we had these disasters and what do they call it, the Dark Ages, I think a lot of people had to leave Greece and come to this area. They left that area because it was all destroyed. They came to the United States, and a lot of them came to Florida. And a lot of these cities that are in Florida actually have Greek meanings. And there's a very old town in Florida that the people there, they have a Greek festival, and the people there say that they are ancient Greek settlers. They're from ancient Greek settlers, and the Greeks were the first people that were coming to Florida. So, I don't know. I guess we'll find out more about it. But I'm going to do a video next on Thales of Miletus, because I think that it would be really interesting to read about some of these ancient Greek philosophers, some of the ones that came first. And Thales is from 620 BCE, and they consider him the father of a lot of the classical Stoic philosophers and theologians. They take notes from this guy. So I'm going to do a video on that next, and I appreciate you spending 12 minutes with me to learn about Dionysus and how Dionysus might be the key to dating old world structures. Thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.